Hey there.
Hey Dan, can you hear me?
I can. Yep.
Good. Excellent. Cool. Here we are.
Yep.
Let's do you want to just go through the notes? This is episode 0.
hmm
Okay. And I'm recording, you can see.
Yep. I got the recording message when I jumped in.
Excellent. And your audio sounds clear. Is my audio clear?
Good. Yep. Sounds good.
If I hold this, it turns into a different kind of
It,
clear. Too loud?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a little bit, yeah.
There's good. Here's good.
I think that's great. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Oh
Sounds
yeah,
very clear to me.
your microphone is it looks good. Looks like a good microphone.
Yeah. Pretty good.
All right. Okay, so on our agenda for today, this is episode 0. We want to come up with a title for our show, a blurb
hmm
about each of us, our
hmm
podcast purpose and scope, I guess that we'll say in each episode, and then final points and a plan for episode 1, which we'll just jump into at the end of this.
Right. Or
Cool.
maybe pause and then start a new
Start a new
recording,
recording.
something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Because
Um,
editing is not the goal here.
Editing is not the goal. Editing detracts
Heavy
from the
editing
goal.
is not.
Yeah. So, and it's
Yes.
probably good to say, because this we're thinking about this being a later release, episode 0, the planning episode, that you and I
hmm
had talked through messages back and forth about the value of podcasts that mostly don't edit, that you get to see an idea come to fruition, an idea become complete through the interaction between two people.
Right. So it's not
So
an interview podcast. It's let's discuss this and really think about this in depth
yeah.
and how it applies to here and
hmm
what we know about that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Through tight interaction, I think the one takeaway from interview type podcasts is there's still interaction.
hmm
That the next question from the interviewer is largely built on what was just said by the interviewee, even though it was a longer turn. And so I think that the takeaway for us could be that it's okay if one person wants to talk for, wants to delve into a thought a little bit, let you
Yeah.
talk. So it's still interaction. Very good.
Sounds right.
Should we let the title for the show emerge and start
Uh,
with start with blurb about us?
yeah, maybe so. That's easier. Let's start with what's easier.
It's easier, and as we say, like, what's the purpose of us doing this? I think, well, we could just throw out titles as we go. Okay, fine. Let's start with number 1, title for the show. I was thinking Bridge Points with Diane and Reed.
Oh, okay.
So
So
that's
yeah,
kind of
bridge.
fun.
But then it sounds maybe like an architectural thing. Should
Bridge
should,
Points
should we be
colon.
brainstorming or do you want the critique already?
Oh, all of it, everything all
Okay.
at once. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking things like trying to reflect the sort of research thinking that both of us have used a bunch, and something like conversations about language teaching or
Hmm.
conversations about language teaching and learning, or but
Yeah.
then learning will be a trigger word for some folks,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
explain that. I'm sure we'll deal with that topic sometime.
Yeah.
But maybe something along those lines where
I do like it.
so then
I
it
I imagine light jazz leading us in. Like,
yeah,
welcome to
yeah. Although I don't
Conversations.
like jazz, but it fits this. Yes, yes,
Elevator music. Welcome to Conversations with
yes.
Diane and Reed.
Kind of going for a Terry Gross sort of
Yeah, yeah.
NPR
That's right.
interviewer, although she was an interview podcast, but it
True, true.
felt
That
that
tone.
kind of
Yeah, the
yes,
NPR
that's the
tone.
tone.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can watch like 1970s like sit down meetings among like famous authors, and they'll open the episode as if they're already talking. You can kind of see them already talking when
Yeah.
the title card comes up, and then they'll say, "Oh, welcome." It's as if like the audience
Yeah.
has walked in on them.
Yes. Yes. Actually, that's pretty similar to what I'm thinking too, because
Cool.
we've had lots of back and forth conversations about all kinds of things
It's
like
true.
this, either it text often, but still conversational
Yeah.
texting. And so we're just inviting people to, well, listen in. Maybe you'll
Yeah.
like that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I like the idea of I don't know if we could do an effect where it's like you and I start talking. We could even pretend we're talking, and the lights are kind of, I don't know, dimmer like that would be on those shows, and then the light becomes bright, and then we go, "Oh, hi, welcome." Well, we were just talking
Yeah.
about.
Yes. Yes. Right. And just jump right into the,
Right.
yeah, it's
You
stream
were
of
just
thought
saying
there.
that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome. I like that a lot.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, conversations. Um, I like conversations. Actually, that part of our bridge building idea has been for a long time about bringing in people who analyze conversations,
Yeah,
conversation analysis folks, because they do have good things to say about classroom teaching.
for sure.
We can glean a lot from what they're saying, and that really isn't heard much. Though there are a couple of points, we can get to that later, but when Bill Van Patten talks about the classroom context being special, to me, that's like a nice little node to connect from. It's like that's a little docking point where we can say, oh, actually, yes, there's a lot to say about that.
Yep.
Cool. So title for the show, I'm gonna make little notes.
Oh,
in the
good.
document, so then I can send you a screen capture as we go. Title for
Sounds good.
show. There's working stuff. Okay, conversations. Okay.
Do we need something that clarifies it,
Yeah.
like the scope of
Conversations
it?
about language teaching.
Yeah, and that's the part I don't know as much, because it's not just conversations about language. Is it exclusively about language teaching? I mean, we'll branch out from there, but I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that's the hub that these other things go around. Like if we're going to
Yeah.
talk about second language acquisition in the wild, for example, or
Right.
some kind of, we're going to be making the connection back to language teaching. I think like we're talking about that because we're
Yeah.
interested in this.
Yeah. I see it that way too, that we're branching out in we're branching out in a lot of directions from this perspective of language teaching. And almost that language teaching offers like a different vantage point on other things people do, like learning in the wild, conversation analysis, different areas of linguistics, different areas of second language acquisition, that it's helpful to get a different perspective. And it's not often that people will say things like, oh, in language teaching, maybe this is true. Language teaching is mentioned constantly throughout SLA literature, including conversation analysis.
Yeah.
I think that that's the Diane and Reed part that makes it a different vantage point. That we'll say it's about language teaching. I kind of like that it undersells. It's like it looks like an understatement, and then as we build up a reputation through all these fantastic people listening to us,
Yeah.
they'll go,
And then
oh,
we
that's
go
the
for
one where they
merch.
talk about all the research, right? Got to dream big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the working
but
title
allow
for
it
now.
to organically unfold just the same way
Organically
we're
unfold.
aiming for the conversations to organically
The
unfold.
audience to organically, discover us and
Yes.
appreciate
Hopefully.
what they do and don't appreciate what they don't appreciate. And that's fair. That's all fair.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we need blurbs. So do you want to?
Well, yeah, one of the blurb things I was thinking about is kind of that different direction of trajectory for you and me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, where we're going to put this, I do a lot of hand gestures as I'm talking, and I'm doing them now.
Yeah.
The thing I was thinking was that I was someone who came from being a language learner, eventually language teacher, and then PhD program researcher, university teacher education stuff, where I kind of am now. And then, so like, I'm a language learner who became a language teacher in K to 12 for 10 years, and then went and got a PhD so I could do teacher education stuff, and now do a combination. I don't know. That's not tight enough yet, but
it's a good start. Okay. Well, then we both came from being language learners, Chinese specifically. Lived in
from the US.
Yeah, both from the US, lived in China. Both were language teachers. I'm doing my K to 12 after, and I think it's a good different vantage point to be in now. And it's good that you and I, where you are locally in time and space makes a difference in where your mind is at, to talk about whatever topics we're talking about. And I think that it's good that you had 10 years of K to 12 experience, so we can connect over that. I think it's also good that one of us is in it now, to be like, oh no, I'm imagining on Monday, my students would never go for that. It's like I can anchor that to the classroom immediately. But then also we have great overlaps and useful differences. So my PhD program was focused specifically on linguistics, Chinese linguistics, and then I branched within that into the acquisition language development stuff. And then I bring this kind of usage-based perspective, based on the people that trained me. And so that's and then I really started reading after I graduated. So I've had about 5 years now of like very careful reading of the research literature that I really only touched on when I was a PhD student.
Yeah. Yeah. People
So
don't have enough time as a PhD student to do that. I
yeah,
mean, you read a
that's
lot,
what you
you read
realize.
a
Yeah,
ton,
yeah,
but it's like,
yeah,
it just, yeah, we've talked about this before too, that the oceans and oceans of research that's out there, it just takes too much time. Nobody
yeah,
becomes an expert in all of it, but you kind of at least can maybe familiarize yourselves with some of the big streams.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you sort of know, okay, there's that thing out there I don't know about, but I may be able to know where to go if I wanted to.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep. So our blurb could be, welcome to conversations about language teaching with Diane and Reed. Both of us are experienced Chinese language teachers from the United States. Lived in China for how many years were you there?
About 4.
4 years. Yeah, awesome. Okay, for at least 4 years. I was there for 7 years.
Yeah.
And for a number of years, and we both have completed PhD programs. Diane in teacher education, right?
Officially, my program name is Foreign Language and ESL Education, but
Okay.
they've shifted the name because of that term foreign, not wanting to reflect the kind of negative, but really what it was is focused on the United States or North American context.
Sure.
Maybe Canada, US, really, not so much the rest of North America. But thinking about places where English is dominant, so ESL education as like being the second language there. And then I think preferred term now is world language education, so other languages than English taught in an English dominant environment. Something that's too long of a statement.
No, I like
So
that.
that's why they don't say that. But
Yeah.
that was the difference. It was thinking about the context being pretty much the US and teaching all the languages of the world, including English, in that context. But we read all kinds of stuff about everywhere and talked about all kinds of things everywhere in the world. So it wasn't really just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm kind of typing as you go. So we could say, let's see, Diane, PhD in world language education and taught for 10 years, K-12 Chinese.
I did, yes.
Okay.
I'm
in
thinking
the
like, wait
United
a minute.
States.
I was also still thinking about like world language education. Not exactly. Let's call it multilingual education. Is that too weird sounding? Does that
no, it's good.
Make sense? Okay.
Or just language education, but multilingual education. Multilingual language education?
Let's call it language education.
Language education. Yeah.
And that really is a short version of the actual title of the program as it was when I was in it.
So. Okay, cool. Okay, so I've read PhD in linguistics and language development. I'll just call it that. Technically, it was Chinese linguistics and language development. I guess that's what I was focusing on. So why not Chinese linguistics and language development?
Yeah.
I took general linguistics classes too, but.
Right. See, that's the thing.
Degree.
I think.
What was my degree? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Likewise, I did study second language acquisition quite directly in several courses, but also in what I chose to focus on. So it was, these are programs that you can do your own thing within a kind of a scope.
Right. Okay. So the specific degree was in this. That's what we'll go for the blurb. Currently.
Yeah. And so for me, like the K-12 things that I was seeing in my students and what I was observing in classes that I taught, and in my thinking about the little bits of research that I could read about or talk to you about, frankly, when I was still a teacher in K-12, that all drove me into that PhD.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to really go in depth. And then I wanted to do research that presented the kinds of classrooms that I had seen, that I talked about with friends, and then bring that into research attention too. So that was my thinking about why. So I had a very K-12 classroom context connected idea with what I wanted to do with the PhD and after the PhD, which I've kind of done. I'll count it.
Yeah. I'm typing as you talk, leaving there for.
I'm only 1 year out of the PhD for those We don't know that. So
Right. Um, we should find a place where we talk about the sort of comprehension-based classrooms that we typically
Yeah.
focus on. I don't know if it needs to be front and center because it's going to be peppered everywhere anyways.
Yeah.
And it's usually linked where relevant. And so it's not like, well, I'm this kind of teacher, and so
Right.
get ready for me to barrel downhill at everything that's going on. What we really
Exactly.
want to do is talk about like the micro, well, a lot of different issues, like questions from research, questions from teachers, issues that we're seeing kind of oddly represented in conversations between teachers, also
Mhm.
from teacher educators. You and I have a lot of opinions about a lot of different things. Yeah, it's typically, I think people will find out as they listen to us that we do have a sort of largely comprehension-based perspective on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
But
that'll end up being the solution to a lot of the issues that we talk about.
yeah, but maybe also that just aware of how that looks from the outside.
Yeah. Yes.
Because we've read enough or talked to enough people who are from the outside of that.
Yeah.
To kind of be able to, well, that's why your thought about bridge made sense. That's
Yeah.
part of it.
It's sort of, yeah, it's counter to the goal of bridge making to state some kind of tribe too quickly up front.
Right.
And so I think that we're not hiding it. We'll mention it constantly. It's not hiding it. It's just
Right.
that it's not the main focus. And there are plenty of times when I'll say, like, a teacher will be like, I'm trying to do this thing. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, of course, that's not a comprehension-based thing, but I'll work with them where they're at. So
Yeah.
I'll say like, okay, let's try to make this more about communication. You want students to give a presentation. Cool. You want students to talk about this thing for a task. Cool. Let's work with what you've got. And
Yeah.
and then sometimes we'll build out towards some kind of step that is, an input-based kind of thing. But yeah, I would say that in all honesty and in my actual practice of how I work with teachers, I don't jump to comprehension immediately. I kind of see what they're going for and try to meet their goals first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think in the long run, yeah, it's that bridge building kind of a thing that I guess it's a anti-dogmatism kind of a
Yeah.
approach.
Right.
Like we have principles, we want to move
informs my
towards these
principles. It informs my
things.
principles. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but recognizing other people don't necessarily get that, but they might be
Yeah.
able to make some quality steps.
Yeah.
Now that
Yeah.
they do think they want something like that.
Yeah. If it's argued well in the specific little question we're talking about, then I think people will be more open to the idea of like, oh yeah, how could the students pronounce it if they've never heard it? Oh, that makes more sense
Yeah.
for that little question I have. So I think that's where it should come up. I think in the blurbs about us, yeah, it's good to keep it general. It's like, the programs we did, the teaching experience, our education experience, our
Mhm.
current work, like that.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So both learned Chinese in China, living there for several years. Both have taught K to 12 Chinese
Yep.
in US schools.
Yep.
Schools in the United States. Cool. We'll do a practice of this and we'll kind of refine it. Do you want to leave it as it is for now? And then we'll kind of fix it in the practice?
I was thinking the thing we missed was teacher training kinds of things.
Of course. And
because both of us have done that kind of stuff a good bit too.
Yeah, for at least 10 years.
Yeah, well, maybe not so long for me.
Okay.
But almost. 2014, I think, was the first time I started presenting at conferences and things.
Okay, for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Teacher training for almost 10 years. Cool.
Oh, though.
Yeah.
No, call it 10, because I just realized, like, I started blogging in like 2011 or 2012.
Yeah.
So
involved.
Yeah.
Involved in language teacher training. Cool. Okay. So just came up naturally, the podcast purpose and scope. So I'm thinking I was thinking, should this go on your YouTube account or my YouTube account? Probably start a new YouTube account that's like named after the show, and it's just the name. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So new YouTube account.
And then do blurbs on our own and let people know. Go over here if you want to see discussions or conversations.
Yeah. Oh, you mean we each make a little video on our own
That's what I was
channel that sends
thinking.
them. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like post a little promo video thing from this channel
Mm,
towards that we could use on those two.
hmm Oh, I see. Does that,
Maybe.
how do you share
Oh, you just upload it to 3
just the
times,
same video? Okay, I'll
I
upload
think.
the post promo video.
I'm pretty analog about that.
Okay, to our own YouTube channels. Okay. Yeah, Sabine Hofstetter, I think that's her name, or Hassenfelder. I gotta check it. I gotta look it up. She's like a pretty well-known physicist, and she's got a YouTube channel, and she just gets really playful and silly. She'll sing songs, but she'll often say like, well, this would be more rigorous in an academic paper, but this is YouTube, so I'm just going to say what I think. Like she treats the YouTube space as a distinctive context to be like, this is how
Absolutely.
YouTube typically is. It's a special place. We're not pretending to be at a conference. We're not pretending that this is an academic paper.
Right.
So we could do a bit of that too and say like, well, this is
Sure.
YouTube, so here we go.
Yep. Maybe appearances from chickens occasionally.
Sure. Have fun with it. Nan had brought up for the audience, my wife Nan had brought up that we should be really prepared with the research articles and titles we're going to talk about. And there are good podcasts that do that. I don't think, based on kind of our field, where we're coming from, what Bill Van Patten did, what a lot of people do on their own YouTube videos, and kind of what our audience is used to for YouTube. I think we can be more upfront about being off the cuff and just saying like, this is Diane and Reed. Like, this is us sharing
having
our
a conversation about
zeitgeisty spirit of things. We'll refer to research when we can and when it's relevant if needed. But I kind of feel like too much references to, spending too much time on the technicalities of which publication, which year, for a general audience. This is who we're going for. It just takes away time and focus. And again, like, I definitely think Bill Van Patten kind of paved a platform in terms of tone and a lot of details of how to do this. And, people this is Bill Van Patten, we're going to trust what he says. We can be skeptical, whatever, you make your own decisions, but it doesn't need to be a tight, rigorous kind of research.
I agree. Because it's the goal is to during the podcast to talk through the issue, to kind of work around it. And that's going to make it harder to be all up front with lots of different citations. But I think we could put that into information under video window or into show notes, so people can go and find that and look it up.
I like that.
Because I would encourage them to do that too. So if we've somebody we can't remember the way to say their last name, we can correct it down in show notes and put a link to where to find more about that person or that kind of thing. And sometimes I hope, we'll have an article that one of us thought, this is really interesting, I want to talk through the things that are in here. And absolutely. We'll
for that kind of episode. But no, and also part of it's just about the motivation of doing this. Like, if you and I find it cumbersome beyond, not having the time needed to prepare for each episode, we end up just not doing an episode and it falls apart. So keeping up the motivation, I think part of it relies on reasonable amounts of work, which is not a lot. Not a lot of work.
Yes, exactly. Actually, I was thinking like, Diane, do you have time for this? And I thought, well, you know what? You talk to Reed a lot. You have time for that. And so it's just a different format to do it.
Okay, excellent. So podcast purpose and scope. Let's say the purpose is to talk
through big and little ideas related to language teaching, how sometimes how those might be viewed in research, how we might have experienced them as a learner or a teacher, how we hear the field talking about those things, and our own perspectives on all of that.
Okay, how our own experience informs our thinking about. What was the fourth one? The last thing you said?
Kind of how the field as a whole is talking about those issues.
Okay.
And our own perspective on all of that. So research on our own teaching and learning experiences, on what we're hearing in the field generally by anyone, maybe by people who are kind of CI minded, maybe
Sure.
by those who
Sure.
are not.
Yep.
And then our own perspective.
Yeah. Yep. So it's this is a show about our perspectives. Let's see. This is a show where we talk through big and little ideas related to language teaching and our personal views on related research, our own experience, and how the field as a whole is talking about these issues. I wonder if I could flip those. Let
Sure.
me see. How the field
And
as a whole is talking about them should come first. Research, and then how our own experience will come last
that
for the
sounds good.
list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that is often naturally the way conversations end up starting. Like, oh, saw this thing on Facebook. Did you notice that? Here's something that somebody's saying, like, oh, but there's this other
I
thing
see.
to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's a lot like our Facebook chat recordings to
Exactly.
each other and messages to each other. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to put in the notes first episode topic. Okay, that'll be the next thing.
Yeah.
So, some sort of final points. I think that was about how we end each episode, like thanks for listening, that kind of thing. I wonder if that should just let's think about it now. Thanks for listening. Check the reference notes underneath. Thanks for listening. Below our video. And please add any comments or questions or comments below. Please send any.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, no guarantees that we're going to read them all necessarily. What are we going to say about that?
Nobody does.
I'm curious,
I don't think
but
is that a
it doesn't
problem?
matter.
I don't think it
I
matters.
wouldn't even. I don't know. The internet can be a weird place.
I know. So we look forward to. I don't know. We look forward to doing this again next time.
Yeah. And the topic of our next conversation will be, or do you feel okay about having that at the end?
No,
I've liked it in
no.
podcasts.
Do you like that? Our next episode
I
will
do.
be okay. So we'll
Like a
decide.
little mini teaser.
Yeah.
No?
It's another constraint that I don't know we'll
Yeah.
like be as excited about. Where it's
Yeah.
like you and I might get more excited about something else, and then we're like, oh, but we promised that we would do this other topic.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Okay.
true. I can adjust.
Okay.
It's an idea from a Jane Austen podcast that I listen
Yeah.
to, and I like it because it's like, ooh, but see, they
Yeah.
already
Wait.
like they have a whole planned out sequence, and
Yeah,
they
Jane
do a
Austen
little bit more
books are already
rehearsed
written.
thing.
That's the thing, is those books are already written.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true.
But there is what to say about them is infinite, but
It is.
yeah. No, I understand. Well, we could come up with a list of topics and then okay, how about this? So here's a compromise. We can do it, but we have to have a running list, and we'll hold ourselves to the next topic that we say we'll do. But then before we record it, we'll check our list and say, is there anything else that we want to like change around on the list after that next episode?
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, ideas that are being kicked around, but nothing promised too hard in advance, just the next one.
Oh no,
no.
I'm saying that like, okay, let's say we have a list of topics like definitions of communication, and then number 2 is what's missing from teacher training, and then number 3 is some strange definitions of input. And so then we say at the end of our episode, okay, next episode will be, and then it's exactly what the next episode on our list says it'll be. So we promise that, and we hold to that promise. We will do that. But before we record it, whatever it would follow that next thing on the list, number 3 on the list or below, that's what remains flexible.
Okay. I think I understood you then.
Okay. Yep. So we won't say like, next episode will be this, the one after that will be that, the one after that will be that. Like we leave anything after that flexible. Okay.
Absolutely.
Next episode will
full support there.
Okay. All right. Keep list running. Okay. Cool. We'll see you then.
Yeah, I think did we hit all the things, all the points in the agenda, right?
We did, yeah. So we do need a first episode topic. We actually need two first episode topics then. What are we going to talk about? First 2 episodes.
I was going to suggest talking about the article you wrote for Hawaii TESOL about I forget the title that you put, but like the idea of comprehensible input and comprehensive
Oh,
input.
okay. Comprehensive, comprehensible. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Okay.
because I thought
Defining.
it's a kind of useful perspective, I think.
Yeah. And it's okay. Article. And its goals. Okay. And then a number 2.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts? Because I have a longer term kind of a thought, but I don't think it would be for episode 2 because I
Maybe
wanted to
that'll
wait.
maybe that'll
Yeah.
spark it. What is it?
Well, the one was the book chapter that we wrote about language play. So talking about language play, maybe referencing that that book chapter and the situation that we were writing about there.
Yeah.
But thinking about language play.
Oh, language play in general.
Yeah.
I think language play in general is fantastic. And that doesn't stop us from talking about something else that's more specific inside of language play later.
True.
If it doesn't come up. But language play. Do you want to or do you want to wait on that?
I'd be more inclined to wait on it,
Okay,
but
no problem. So it could be, let's see. I have something let me just list a bunch of different things.
yeah. Go for it.
Well, the need for communication, because I see input often defined in terms of language form. And so I think that like getting into the ideas of form versus meaning, and as language teachers, we focus too much on language as form. We're like, make sure you get these words in the input. You got to get these,
Right.
shelter vocabulary, don't shelter grammar, or even like circling questions in TPRS. It's like ask a yes answer question, a no answer question. We don't get
Yep.
beyond that, like that little, the best we'll do for meaning there is to say like the pragmatics of like a question and an answer. It's still not up at discourse level of like a whole
Yeah.
topic that's
It's
coherent.
very much thinking about vocabulary
Yeah.
instruction as the goal, maybe.
Oh yeah, it's like
and then
it's
grammar
with,
instruction too,
yeah,
through this vehicle that is maybe communicative, but maybe
yeah,
flipping the emphasis makes
yeah,
sense so that communication comes first,
yep. How language
and how that'll
teachers,
shift some of
yeah,
those other issues.
talk too much about language. How language teachers talk too much about language.
Ha! Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. I
Okay.
like it.
All right. So I just found out the Zoom account I'm using from my school.
Oh yeah.
It says time
Timer.
left 17
Well, that'll keep
to
us to
7
time.
keeps us to time. So we've got 7
Yeah.
minutes left. How long has this recording been? I don't know how to check that.
It's just about 31, 32 minutes, I think, because I jumped in
Okay.
a couple minutes after the hour.
So it must be a 45-minute limit. Excellent.
Yeah, it might be 40-minute actually.
40-minute. Okay.
I think I've seen that,
Good.
but
Keep us on time.
that's kind of nice. Yeah, actually, I like it.
Okay. Do you want to practice real quick before we start the next one? Or should we stop
Sure.
this and then practice and then start with the recording?
Let's do that. Let's do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And then it'll be like this, woo,
Yeah.
So anybody who listened to this,
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay. Well, let's practice our ending here. So thanks for listening to episode 0 of the podcast that is now titled Conversations about Language Teaching with Diane and Reed, or with Diane Neubauer and Reed Riggs.
Mm-hmm.
And Reed Riggs.
We're doing that by alphabetical order. I just read a little Facebook post from a friend from years ago where they were trying to determine order of authors.
Right.
And they had this whole list of like flip a coin, a dog picked which person they liked most or something.
Yeah.
And like
alphabetical makes it the least controversial. Yeah. I think I often view you as the more audience facing, like audience ready person. When I compare me and you, I get a little heady. I get a little too much into like, I have some detail I gotta like pick apart. Whereas
okay,
sometimes so I see you as the more like the better, the more naturally good at or by intention or practice audience facing person. You'll kind of rein
accept
me in,
that.
I think. Okay. All right.
But I can go both. So that's what's fun.
Sure.
Yeah. Who are we talking to and who needs what? But
yeah. So I'm going to put you in a kind of lead.
Really compelling.
I'll see you as a kind of lead position here with
Well,
Diane Neubauer and Reed Riggs. Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for listening to our episode 0 coming out whenever it comes out. Please stay tuned for our next episode, which will be about an article that I wrote recently for the Hawaii TESOL newsletter titled Defining Comprehensible Input and Its Goals. Thanks for listening, and we will see you then.
Bye-bye.